Hi team, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Let's wait for 2 minutes and let's see if Kirit and Vinod is joining as well.
Hello, everybody. I'll start, but let me just open the screen so that I'm not interrupted. In the meanwhile, if somebody has any questions from yesterday's topic, uh, we'll start with. Am I audible?
Yes, Kiri.
Yeah,
You're audible.
thank you.
Or may not join, is it?
Kirit and Vinod have a conflict. They will join later. I have pinged them and they
But
said that they have a conflict and they will join later.
Okay.
So yesterday okay, I can start, right?
Yes, Giri, please start.
So yesterday we started off with Spotfire Web, and Spotfire Desktop, and we went through what Spotfire does, what is the environment like, uh, the node player, the web player on the Spotfire, the kinds of nodes that can be implemented on Spotfire. So when we come now, I'll again show you how we log in, uh, because this system. Okay, we had seen yesterday how the MFA works, and this was the opening screen which we went through. From here, we went to nodes and services, and we came to node managers. And then I described what are the things that we can do with a node manager. The first thing that we can do is we can define a web player. Then I told you about a service called automation services, which we will come in due course. Then we also saw that there was something called TER service that can be configured. This will help users to use the TER and R functions. And in our system, we saw that there are two servers, Spotfire servers. Both are based on Linux. And ignore the IPs. I also told you that we have an SRE team which manages the infrastructure for these Spotfire servers. And we also, after this, we came to monitoring and diagnostics. I showed you that the logs can be downloaded for each of the component here. These are the server level logs that I'm talking about, which help you in troubleshooting. And I also showed you to download the global troubleshooting bundle. This will help you to download a set of logs, a set of configurations from the Spotfire server, which normally is an ask for when you create tickets with the Spotfire support. We also understood that the Spotfire is a TIBCO product, so it is an internal support that you'll be dealing with from your perspective. So if you guys are contractors, so you will deal with Spotfire support, and Spotfire support being internal, it is how you will be dealing with. Again, the tickets on that are raised on Vulkan. We'll come to that later on. Now, today, I'll continue with Spotfire analyst. I'll start with analyst. So I have configured Spotfire analyst here, and I'm trying to log in.
Giri, 1 minute. Sorry to interrupt you. Virenna? Is
Hey,
Virenna
Vinod.
joined? Hey,
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Virenna.
here.
Yeah, Virenna, I think you got all the KT session recordings and the updated BA tracker sheet, right, in that folder?
That tracker I did not get. I mean, we are not able to. I'll discuss with you later,
Okay,
Vinod,
okay, okay,
because
okay,
it's a personal ID, right? So
okay, okay.
later
Yeah,
I'll discuss with you.
okay. Thank you. Thank you, Giri. Please continue.
Okay. So this will be the opening screen, and when I am showing you how to log into Spotfire Analyst, let me also show you that we have two different servers. This is corporate Spotfire prod. The URL for this is the same as what you will use on the web uh, browser also, and we use the same URL here. And then there is this UAT environment also, which you can use to play around. Um, so I'm logging into production. And since it uses the same URL and all that, it will open up your MFA and you log in with your MFA itself. It opens the browser, authenticates the MFA, authenticates with the help of MFA, comes back, and it launches your Spotfire analyst. Then it asks you about deployment area, which is production. Okay, now this screen tells you that you have already logged in into your Spotfire analyst. And also, you have two different environments. And now you will first, when you have the Spotfire analyst, you will see which is the environment that you are connected to. The easiest way to come to a conclusion and finding out that is you have this symbol here, the Earth symbol. You come there and you see the URL. Don't go by the server name, go by the URL. This is something corporate Spotfire prod is something that I have defined on my system. Go by the URL https tipcocorp spotfire-cloud.com. And when you do something on Spotfire server on the analyst, please be sure that you're using uh, you're logged into the specific environment which you want to log in. Then we outlined one tool, which is the information designer. And under the information designer, there are two different tabs. Out of that, I showed you data sources. Data sources is important because we have centralized data sources on Spotfire. Uh, Users can bring their own data sources also. That is a separate way to do it. But we are more concerned about the centralized data sources. We also brought into focus that analytics data mart is connected with Spotfire here, like Power BI. So there is a separate list of data sources which are active, retired, all of them have been listed, which will be shared in due course with you. In fact, there will be a document that will follow as well, and as and when that you get access. A few links that are important from the Spotfire point of view and other softwares also, but I'm mentioning that Spotfire also will be included in those links as one page. Then I brought into focus how Spotfire connects to the database, centralized. You can see it uses JDBC, and JDBC is important because more tools, more and more data connections, we are using JDBC. JDBC is used even if you connect to Oracle. Again, there are a few sources that are coming from Oracle. So Spotfire mainly uses JDBC, and you have to understand that there is JDBC that is being used, and we are using a service account to connect to this. Domain of the service account is SitRight, as in. So when I come to domain, there are two different, I would say three different domains that we operate in as of now. One is the old TIPCO domain, legacy TIPCO domain, legacy Citrix domain, and the third one is the cloud domain. So when your cloud IDs get created, you will get a cloud ID, but when that will be helpful for your GCP and Looker work, because again, the GCP and Looker tenant is configured under the cloud tenant itself. There are some like Spotfire that has been configured as in TIPCO. There are a few softwares aligned with Spotfire that also are configured within TIPCO domain. Here we are trying to just so to appreciate this, this connection, you will also understand that over the network from AWS, we are connecting to SitRight domain, and we are using a service account to connect to that from the SitRight, and we are using NTLM to connect. So SVC DW Spotfire is created in a SitRight AD domain, and that is the password for that is stored in Beyond Trust. We'll come to Beyond Trust in a separate session. Now, that password is applied here, and this particular server is on a different domain altogether. It is on AWS, and it is on the SRE team's own network, and that over the network it contacts the SIP, goes into the network is configured to go into the SitRight domain, connect to the database, and once it connects to the database, it uses the service account, the Windows service account, and the password there. I showed you this connection especially because this is the central DW connection that is being used now. Apart from this, there are other connections also. If you see managing DB, this is again a database on MS SQL Server, but this is on-prem. But if you see here, you will have the type as TIPCO data virtualization. I will introduce TIPCO data virtualization here. Again, allied product with Spotfire. It helps in managing data and virtualizing data. We'll come to that in detail. But remember that we have TIPCO data virtualization also under the Spotfire pillar. I'll show you one more data source. So this again, if you see, is calling a TIPCO data virtualization. Okay, but if you see, this is a MS SQL. We'll come to that. This is an Oracle database. This is a legacy financial application, Oracle financial application server that is there on Oracle cloud network. It is there for historical purposes, and people are referring to this server for historical data. So this is also an important data source which you would have to know about. There are not much reports on this, But yes, people do use, and it is significant. That's all. Then from here, we started off library administrator. The one tool that I showed you was information designer. How you reach information designer is data, and from data you go to information designer. And under data sources, you get to define data source. You can check this out, set up data source, and then you can set up a data source and see for yourself. Information designer elements tab, we'll come to that. There are a few options here. We'll also see some of the options which you require for support. Then I wanted to show you one tool which is called the library administration. So when I was explaining you so web interface of Spotfire, I had taken you to library, and all the data is all the dashboards and data objects are stored in library, and these are stored folder wise. And I showed you one of the most important folders that you have to understand. One is the production. Under the production, so don't go by the word production and say that yeah, these the rest of it is not production. All of these are production, but it was legacy created in such a way that this is named as production. Cannot help it. I don't want to change it because there are a lot of things involved. We'll come to that also. Production, SARP. And you have a lot of folders here. Now to manage this, you can either manage it from here. Also, you can manage it from library administration. And that is easier to manage from library administrator. Here I come to production. I come to SAR dashboard. If you see, these are all folders. Let me go to booking, edit. Now, here I'm introducing how users access these reports. How do they get authorization to access these reports? So all users use for authentication MFA Okta. They use and they log into Spotfire. And once they log into Spotfire, their access is being normally determined by their membership in an Okta group. Now, we have also seen on Power BI also, there are Okta groups defined for access. And here also we have defined Okta groups. So that is what I am showing here. This is an Okta group that has been created. If you see the naming convention, it starts with app access. CSPT stands for corporate Spotfire. So app access, that naming convention is being given by the Okta group. I mean the Okta support team. We have our own, after that we have added CSPT just to show that this group belongs to corporate Spotfire, and from there ITDW support is the actual name of the group. There are two kinds of groups. One can be created within Spotfire, other can be created in Okta. Ones that have been created in Spotfire, we'll come to them later on. Let me come back to access. So if you see, there are 4 different accesses shown here. One is access. The other is browse plus access. Browse plus access was modified. And the 4th one is full control. Let's spark access for now. Browse plus access gives the person the right to run the report. browse plus access plus modify, if you are part of that group, it gives you the right to modify the report. If you have full control, that means you can modify the report as well as assign it to somebody else. And your access is for this folder is determined by these set of access rights. Am I clear? Do you have any questions on this? Okay.
Hi, Giri.
Yeah.
Can you please repeat what does access versus browse access give?
Okay.
What's the difference?
I parked access a little. Let's park it now. The first one I have not spoken about. Second part I have spoken about browse plus access. So tomorrow Sankalp is added into this Spotfare, and he wants to run a report that is part of this group booking folder. Now he just has to run. So what I'll do is I'll add him to browse plus access. He'll be able to run this report.
Okay, and this means just modifying or full control
I
over
did
the
not.
report?
I did not speak about modify. I spoke about only
Just
browse
running.
plus access. Just running the report. You are an end user. You just need to consume data from the report.
Noted. Okay.
Now, browse plus access plus modify gives you the right to run the report and edit the report. And full control gives you the full control. I mean, you can add people to browse plus access also. Full control gives you full control on the folder. Okay.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, with this concept, let me add concept of license also. We have seen library administrator. We'll come back to that. But before we conclude access, we also have to see administration manager. So here you will actually get the membership of the group and the things like that here. First tab is users. You can navigate that. Then the tab is groups and licenses. Now, let me first show you what is an administrator group. Oh, for the first one is administrator. So these many administrators we have. Basically, if you are a member of this administrator group, you have the whole access on Spotfire. And along with this administrator, coming for you are a lot of licenses. So I showed you something on the folder part where you have the rights on the folder. But to actually modify a report, you will have some of the licenses from here. So for administrator, all of these licenses are enabled. So if you have administrator, you have all the licenses. I'm just showing this as part of I don't want you to go in depth to understand what each of these licenses are, because maybe you won't be using them at all since we are phasing this out. But the most important groups that you have to understand is information modeler group. Now, information modeler group has some licenses that enable people to modify the report in Spotfire Analyst. So you have to have a Spotfire Analyst license to go and modify the report on Spotfire Analyst. So this license has been enabled on that. It is ready. It is not ready-made. It is custom built. This is one group that we have created within Spotfire. and we have granted that license. So these two groups already are part of information modeler. That means you understand that script author is a default. Sorry, I did not cover default groups. I talked about administrator group. Now, administrator group is created within Spotfire, and it is default created by Spotfire when you install it. Now, in a similar way, there is a group called script author, which gives you uh, different licenses, which enable some functionality for you. I don't know specific licenses that have been enabled here, but under the script author, we configured information modeler to customize our Spotfire. And under that, we have assigned so many licenses for them. So this enables many of the menus for you, many of the data connectors for you, etc., etc. Information modeler is one such group. Under the default group, another group that you should be aware is the automation service users. This helps in defining. Mostly automation jobs are defined by an administrator. In our Spotfire. But if you want an external person to be defining automation jobs, it has to be part of this group. Another scheduled update users is one. So there is a scheduled updates system account also you have to be aware of. Now, what is scheduled updates? Yesterday, I showed you some jobs which are under scheduled and routing rules. And yesterday we brought up this list, which also I told you these are my critical reports for my pulse, testing the pulse from the Spotfire environment. And if you see, these are now refreshing in progress. Good time to show you that. Customer health dashboard, that is also refreshing. Now, giving you more information on this, this is the location of the particular report. If you see, it is showing a folder path. Can you see that folder path clearly? Production, SARP, dashboard, sales ops, report, booking forecast, customer health dashboard. FA dashboard, the most important report that we discussed yesterday. Again, production, SARP, dashboard, sales ops, report, booking forecast, FA, EAR dashboard. To go over there, tools, library administrator, production, SARP, dashboard, sales ops, report, booking forecast. Sales ops, report, booking forecast, and FAER dashboard. So if you see the icon over here, it looks like a blue cricket ball on with the scene. That is the Spotfire symbol. It used to be the Spotfire symbol. And this is the actual dashboard where it is existing. And I have clicked on that particular dashboard. At the bottom of the screen, you can see the web client URL for this. So many people, what they do is they just copy this URL. They save it as a bookmark, enter. So today I want to see FAER dashboard. I am a user. I just Ranjit, can you check this? Refresh, not there. Cache missing. It is trying to execute. The reason for that?
So currently, the cache is in progress. So that's what's taking time.
Okay. Okay, so this should give the report. Let me open a report that is. If I click on this, it opens the report. So this error message comes because it is created on a old Spotfire version, and they have to, the editor or the report owner, whoever has created this, has to open it and then save it here. So this is a sample I just show you from routing. These are my critical reports, and I opened one of those reports here. Okay, this has opened. This is the FAER dashboard, which I pulled the URL from here and put it on the browser. You have to remember that users just keep only the URL with them. They don't have anything else. They don't open Spotfire as such. They just open the URL. And most of the cases when you approach tickets for corporate Spotfire, first thing you will be asking is, what is the report that you're using? By that, you may have a folder location which the user gives, or a full URL that the user gives. And most of these, there are many instances of Spotfire that have been configured in CSG. We are concerned about only this Spotfire, TIBCO Spotfire-cloud.com. If the URL says something else, you again, if you're given a URL, try to open that URL, and if the URL comes and points to something like this, TIBCO Spotfire cloud.com, it means that you have to support that particular URL. So what we have seen yesterday, we did see the rules for this. My most important critical report that is in Spotfire. I showed you the rule name, how it is configured, number of instances on the web player where I render this, and the times on which I have configured. It is running 24 hours with a refresh time every 120 minutes. Okay, coming back to, yeah, in this folder, you see many of the reports. Now, interesting thing which we have to understand is, under this, if you see FAER dashboard, there is also another one called FAER dashboard FI25 and future. There is another one called FA pipeline. So people can, if they have access and the right over this folder, and they have enough licenses from where I showed you, they can copy it as another report, name it as another report, and add their own customizations to that particular report and run that report. So in many cases, you will see in many folders, the report names are same. So you will have to, when you work with the report, you will have to make sure that the report that you are being, the URL which you have got has the and the URL that you are seeing and you are accessing on Spotfire Analyst have to be the same. Say, for example, now library production SARP dashboard. I'm referring to this library production SARP dashboard sales source report. Booking forecast. Booking forecast is the report. That folder under this booking forecast, I have FAER dashboard. Somewhere they might have created a FAER dashboard for 2021, and somewhere it will be there in another folder. They will say it as an archive. So for now, I'm assuming that will be there. Library productions are dashboard sales ops report booking forecast. Under booking forecast, you will see archive, another folder, and it is inside that. You may think the name is the same, FAER dashboard, but both will be entirely different. So now, since we also talked about giving access, let's also talk about how to withdraw access from all users. So I go to production. I go to Smart dashboard. Again, let's go to booking, 2017 bookings. Okay. Now, one thing that you have to notice, you are setting access on the folder. You are not setting access on the report. When you are setting access, you're always setting on the folder. So dashboard, now you come to booking, and then you set your access here. So every report that is there in booking folder, you will have to give it. In another way, which I can put it is, if you have two different reports, you have to set access to two different users, push that into two different folders, set individual access on each of the folder. That is how it is done. Okay, by this access part is complete. Only left in access part is the Okta access groups, which we will cover only when you have access on the cloud, cloud network, because we will have to show you also how to raise a ticket for that. And that will come the third session that, sorry, the next session, which I have planned for, will come only after that. Any doubts in user access? Okay, since you don't have questions, I can complicate this a little bit more. Okay, this is a good example. So you see, individual users have been assigned access here. There are groups that have been assigned access here. And how does that happen? Why does that happen? Is the next question that I'm trying to answer. Normally, the first thing that we identify if an user is asking you for a access on a report, Assume that uh, we are having a user X who is now joining CSG and wants access to this folder, sales ops folder, and I need to give him access. My first intention will be what kind of access he wants. So if he is just running the report, my next question will be, uh, do I have a group where I can add him? Is his colleague part of any group where he needs to be? I mean, is there a group which, so for example, sales ops, I will try to identify if there is a group DWP is G ops. Yeah, this guy suits to this group. Or there are other groups also. How can I is CSPT's DW hygiene? Which group should I give him access to? So partially, your job is to identify which group he has to be part of, which group he is actually part of. So you have to identify his colleagues. Probably his manager could point you to that direction. Even if all after that you're not able to find out, you come to the full control, you see a name there, Saoin. Uh, Jin is the name here. So she has the full access on this. So you go talk to Saojin and understand where you have to give him access. Essentially, you have to find out which group he wants access to and then give him access. So normally there will be no groups which have modify access. There can be groups. I'm saying normally. So normally individual users who are power users, say for example, Stephen Anderson. Stephen Anderson is one of your top customers. He's a power user. He will have modify access on many reports because he's a modifier and he's also administrator for those reports. He defines the logic for these reports. He will have since we don't have any Okta groups that define this. Why we don't have is there will be only a few users who have modify rights, and we have to have the control over assigning modify rights on reports as an administrator. When a person outside your group can raise a ticket for access into an Okta group, if it is approved by mistake also, and if it is not, if not even up, I mean, it is approved in due course, you will not be able to understand. So if a group is having a modify access, so generally avoid giving modify access to groups unless it is very essential. And if you are saying that you require some access to 5-6 people, you have to define the group within Spotfire that makes your job, that makes it your job to give access based on that particular group. Say, for example, on the full control, you see a group called IT SARP full control that has full access. So under production, you will see all folders. You will see this group having full control. So as I summarize for access, we have seen groups, Okta groups, which authorize on folders. Apart from the Okta groups, the users also require licenses to modify the report and access the report. One other group which I would like to draw your attention is the everyone group. So basically, this is a group of all users who have access to Spotfire, and the everyone group by default have added these many licenses. By default, uh, when you install Spotfire from eDelivery side, you may not see a customized everyone group, but yes, we have customized this for corporate Spotfire. So I'm just going over this customization. Okay, so we have seen that also. So I showed you some rules and scheduled refreshes, these ones. So any report you have to add to this should uh, the scheduled administrator user, that is a default user in Spotfire, has to have access the access on this. So to simplify that, what we have done is under administrator, we have added scheduled update users. If you see scheduled update users properties, you have the scheduled update system account that is part of this. That is also one of the customizations we have done on this software, just for our easier management. Actually, now let us see how you run a report on Spotfire analyst. So this is a simple report that I have created and kept. To run this, any report you have to run, you will have to go to Spotfire library. Then it shows you your locations, folders. You go to production, and the next type of is SARP, and you can go like that. But once you have run this report, it comes back and comes and sits on your favorites like this, and recent analysis that you have used, so not favorites. So I'm just running a small one, which I have used, groups and members. Now I am running this on analyst. It doesn't use your web player. It is not using your web player memory. It is directly connecting with the Spotfire server and your analyst. Somehow it did not produce any results. Okay, so this is the way to run that report. That's it, from your analyst. And when you run it on the analyst, it is running on your local machine. Local machine in the sense, local VDI, VM, whatever you are accessing from Spotfire analyst. Now when I run it over here, just like I opened earlier, this is running on the web layer, and it is rendering. It is just a browser connection from here to your Spotfire server. And just to refresh yesterday's, some of the things that we also looked. We looked at instances. Sorry, I showed you routing analysis. So these are my FAER dashboard I showed you. And no users are using it, but it is still already been loaded and kept ready for users. And also this is one way of analysis, and this is the pivot of the same, where from this you are getting the analysis on the basis of your analysis, that is, I mean, the dashboards that are loaded in the memory, and here it is based on the web layers that you have configured. Each of these web layers, it gives you details that are loaded in that particular web layer. And do remember Global Spot Fair. I'm coming back thrice and four times on this because this is the basic question that they ask in support. And your log files are all here. Let me go to closing this. Data, information designer, data sources. I showed you something called NVO AWS, which, sorry, not NVO AWS. I showed you something called TIB-RPT. TIB-RPT pointed to TIBCO data virtualization. And I showed you managing BB, sorry, that was the one that I showed you. And managing BB also showed you to TIBCO data virtualization. And now we will concentrate on TIBCO data virtualization. So in the meantime, I know that you don't have access on Spotfire, but to understand Spotfire, you can go to spotfire.com. On YouTube, there are many videos on Spotfire. Sorry, there is a site called spotfire.com. You can access it. A lot of information. YouTube shows you many information on Spotfire just to get a hold of it if you have no experience in Spotfire. It is very similar to Tableau and Power BI. Only thing is you are also managing the whole resources. There are resources and things like that. You have a Spotfire community here. There are some exercises which you can do. All that, how that happens, all that is covered here. I think you can also download one Spotfire instance on your local machine and try with that with some data source. There will be some data source that something like New York traffic that can be downloaded and do some analysis can be done. You can do your Excel sheet analysis and all that. Just to have a hang of it. So now the product that I'm going to introduce is called TIBCO data virtualization. And if you go to TIBCO site, you will get more details on how the product is, what the product does, and things like that. But in short, what it does is you can configure a lot of data sources within. You can bring in data from different data sources, combine that, just like what you do on a database, and feed that into. Basically, it was first identified with Spotfire because it was used for Spotfire. Originally a Cisco product. It combines data. So you have something like 4 different databases. One is an Oracle, one is a one is an MS SQL database, other is a Postgres, other is so it allows you any different data source. You can bring it inside uh, TIBCO data virtualization. The software can render this particular 4 or 5 data sources, combine those data sources according to what you need, and render them in a way that you want. So nowadays, you want it as a .NET, you want it as a JDBC, you want it as an API. Everything is possible under TIBCO data virtualization. Apart from this, you can also do some caching. You can create a fresh database which combines all these databases. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the users will not feel that it is coming from 10 different databases or 10 different data sources. It is coming from one different source, one singular source. So our TDB is installed on a Linux server that is on-prem. Sorry, it is not on-prem, it is Azure cloud, and it is under TIBCO domain. It is installed on Azure tenant for BI. To access, when you access TDB, I told you you can bring in a set of data sources, combine those data sources in a way that you want, and output it in a fashion that you want. So different combinations here. Now, basically, then you have to look at 2 different data interfaces for this. One is you are allowing users or the business users or another system to consume data out of TIBCO data virtualization, which we normally call as TDB. And there is one more way you have to, one way of interface, sorry, let me come back. So when you output all this data, there is one, you have to have the ability to program the data. As in, you have to do some massaging on the data. You have to do some, write some views. You have to write some procedures. You have to create the data. That is one kind of an interface, which is a programmer interface. The second interface that you have is you allow another system or user to consume the data. So there are 2 different interfaces which I am talking about when you output data for output data from TDB. Have you understood that concept, or? Yes or no would be helpful.
If you can repeat, Giri.
Okay.
We couldn't follow on that.
So what I'm trying to say is, you have 10 different databases. You're bringing that databases into TDB. You're messaging the data. Okay. Now you have the ability. You need the ability to massage that data. You write code into that. So that is a programmer's interface. This is clear.
Yes.
Now for that purpose, we have TDB Studio. Okay. And the second interface that I was talking about, that which TDB allows you to connect to, is allowing other systems to do data source connections, as in they get data out of TDB. Where you have ready-made data views that you create using those databases. and you are giving that data as a single database to some other source. In other way, what I'm trying to say is you have 5 different databases. You have written a different view combining 2 different tables from 2 different databases, and this table is being used in Spotfire. One method, you are allowing Spotfire to access data from TDV. The second method of interface that TDV requires is you have to write that view in TDV, combining these 2 data tables from different databases, as in you're programming an IDE interface for you. Okay, the IDE interface is Studio, and Spotfire getting data is a data share. Spotfire accessing data through TDV is a data share. Clear?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Giri. So that data in terms of that one is from the development phase, let's say procedures or functions we are creating.
Development. Yeah, you're right. Development. Yeah.
Correct. So same thing on another hand, the data in terms of that which we are moving export or in terms of moving that similar kind of activities. So is that correct? Two activities.
It is not export as such, but it is live data which you are trying to pipe into Spotfire.
Piped into the correct.
Maybe Spotfire, maybe it is different. So you can give data to Spotfire. You can create an API out of this data and render it to different system.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So that basic thing you have to have in mind to understand this.
And is there any blocks because of the Spotfire when you are attempting on that same database, right? You are attempting on that multiple tasks, right?
Okay.
Anything on the blocks?
Blocks as
in terms of with that same database, respect to same tables. If I am a development phase like that, I'm creating with that procedures or functions. I'm working on the development phase, and same attempting on that in terms of querying for that another task.
Technically, the answer is simple because that is handled by the database itself.
Okay. So there is nothing.
From my perspective, I don't see any locks because I don't see any blocking locks, things like that, because I am just using the data. It is a DBA who will see all those blocks and things like that. Right. I won't be able to see actually.
I agree, completely agree. But you will face that on the front end. You will face that any bottlenecks or any issues, the logs.
So my report will be slow. Again, when I investigate, I won't get data there. But I won't see any blocks happening, right? I mean, I won't get a message out of that, right? What I'll see is my report being slow.
Okay.
I'm not able to get data. My query is waiting. Where it is waiting, I'll see in my logs. Then I'll understand it is on the database side. It will go to that.
So do you also with that go and check from the database side and look for the analysis, or you'll wait for that? How you going to proceed with that?
So in my previous life, I used to do that, but now I don't because I am no longer have access to the database.
Okay, fine. Because in case with that, going forward, if we gets delay in that, how are you going to proceed with that?
So I'll put it in a different way for you. You are looking at a database that is under your control. What happens if the database is not under your control?
Yeah, agree. I completely agree.
So it has to be so. So when we are looking from the way from application, you will not see what is happening in the database. You don't have access to that.
Okay.
So I assume that I don't have access. Of course, if I know the data source, I will definitely alert the DBA and go and tell him, yes, I am having a difficulty with this source. That is it.
Correct.
So on the screen, if you see, I have 4 different folders. You can ignore my home for now. You can ignore the folder with the IP name here. Let us look at shared. Under shared, I have created different data sources. The ones in DCOM are data sources which are no longer being used. So it has a red semicolon over there which shows that there is some error. Ignore that for now. We spoke about TIB-RPT. We spoke about managing BB on Spotfire. We will continue with that.
Okay.
I told you managing BB is a MS SQL database.
So normally, who owns all these backend operations?
So backend operations TDB is via AMS.
Okay.
So basically, I'm showing you a data connector here, which TDB has a number of data connectors. I will not be able to go how to configure data connector and all that because it is a very vast process. But normal small databases, Oracle and all, it has very few options and you can configure it very easily. If your port is open on the network, you can configure it off. If you see managing BB, I told you it is a Microsoft SQL Server 2019. I told you that it is a MS SQL because I know that I configured this, so I know that. And this is the host. For now, this is a host that is in GCP. Through networks, it is coming to TDB, which is configured in Azure. This is the database. You have DB, a Microsoft, SQL Server database user configured, which has just the read-only access on the database, and the password is configured here. So you enter basically this, and then you come to connection URL string. You use the JDBC. The JDBC is also configured. Once there is an upgrade of SQL Server or something, we have to work on getting the new JDBC file from Microsoft, pushing it into TDB and all that. We don't have to do that because you are on a phase where this is going to go off. You just have to understand that it is there. That's all. And this is how it is configured. You can see overall the configuration. And the most important thing to watch for is you will have to see whether this is enabled data source or not. If the tick is not there, it means it is not enabled. And many of the ones that are here, dashboard DW, open. If you see, it is not enabled here. I'm just highlighting the tip for troubleshooting here. So this is a database that has been configured. Let me close, let me come to managing DB again. I expand this. I have a folder configured. All the tables are in DBO. Don't ask me why. It is there. It has been configured here. So we just require this particular employee directory here. This is legacy TIPCO. Don't be confused. For data that you have to refer on employee and things like that, you have to refer it somewhere else. This is existing. Some of these reports use this data. That is why it is configured. I don't know whether this has been updated and things like that. I'm not sure about it because managing VB is related to Oracle EBS legacy TIPCO Oracle application, and that is where the reports use this data. So coming back to TDB, this is shared folder. Now, what I'm trying to do under shared folder is I am connecting to the database. I am mirroring whatever I have in the database over in a folder here. Let me show you more. There is a support DW here. This is also an MS SQL database. SFTC Cisco cache. I have more tables here. Okay. Again, I'm just coming to the first phase of it. The first phase of it is I'm bringing in data from a database into TDB. Okay. Now I have the data within TDB and I'm going to present it to Spotfire. So if I have to present it to Spotfire, it has to be a JDBC source. So what I do is I have something called composite data sources. So I'll think, how do I present it to Spotfire? As a database or as a web service? Now, you know the answer. We are presenting it as a database. We are using JDBC to connect. There may be sources which can use data.NET also. And both this, you are using, these are pre-configured folders. You put it under databases. I have one source here called managing BB. Employee directory is there. So I showed you the shared. I showed you composite data services. Now, by using composite data services, what I am doing is I am trying to present the data onto Spotfire. Let me open this. One way to test whether this data source is working or not is show contents here. It basically pulls out the first 1,000, first 50 under this. So it pulls only first 50 and things like that. So now I have shown you a sample database. The sample database has been added to TDB using a data connector, MS SQL data connector. I have placed this in composite data services under databases. I have created a schema for that and created, published this. How do I do that? Is I go here. Since once I have created this, I come here. I get an option to publish. And once I add that, I get an option to go to managing BB here. I paste it there and I press OK. This is just the first time I'm going to present it. I'm just telling this just for your information, for your troubleshooting purposes. There will be no further reports that have been added to TDB and Spotfire, is what I understand. So you can just understand this and keep it. We come to managing DB here under composite data source services. So it gives you different options how to present. You get OData for this you can explore when you have access to TDB. But for now, what I am trying to say is we are using only JDBC to connect to Spotfire. That's it. I showed you one managing DB data source in Spotfire. Now, here it is interesting. My name on the database that I have provided is managing DB 2019. Here under the list in composite data services databases, I have placed it as managing DB. I am presenting it to Spotfire as a database. And the name that I apply in Spotfire is managing DB. JDBC composite TIBCO data virtualization. Okay, let me copy this. Okay. Can you see this? JDBC composite dataset. I'll take a analytics CSG ODS lead also just for comparison. So if you see both are JDBC, one is composite SW, which is something that is provided by TDB and it has to be added as a that particular JDBC driver has to be added when you upgrade TDB. But you have to remember that there is a driver for TDB that is present in Spotfire installation. Then you see that the IP is there, the port is there, 9401 and 1433. At the top, there is domain configured. I told you about the domain, how it is and things like that. Now, in the second one, you see encrypt is equal to false, integrated security is equal to true. You can Google this JDBC, what is that? Parameters. Again, domain is, I'm sorry, I concentrate on the second one. I have to use the first one. Composite data source is equal to managing DB. Now, where does this managing DB come from? It is coming from composite data sources databases. This is what is put in the JDBC. Okay. So when you work backwards for issues, this will help you. I also showed you TIBRPT. From where does TIBRPT come? How will I find out that? So essentially, I will have a folder here. No, let's pick the URL from there. It's easier if you go this way. So look at this. Data source type is EBS. And if you go to TDV, under composite data services, there is a folder by the name EBS. Okay. These many tables are there which have been published. From where? How do you find out that? Say, for example, employee directory. I told you about this managing DB. Employee directory is published here. I open this info tab. It shows me where the location of the employee directory is under services. If I take another one, FND user V, info, services database EBS, TBRPT, FND user V. Let's scroll down. Sorry, that is the name. Sorry, I should have concentrated here on shared. Sorry, this should be the one that you concentrate. Under shared, it is telling me go to EBS. I go to EBS folder. Where is EBS folder? I expand the EBS folder. And it is saying OCI EBS apps 19C adapter. Open it here. It is an Oracle 19C thin driver. You have the host IP here. This is basically the database I was talking about. This is in the OCI cloud and we are connected to that. And then under this folder, FND user V will be there. So there is an FND user V here. Okay. Oh, sorry, not this one. Yeah, FND user V here. Info tab here. So this is shared EBS, OBS, EBS apps 19C, TibRPT, FND user V. If I come to this tab, the source is the same and the name is the same. Now with that, I'll take a 5 minutes break. Atish, over to you.
Yes, hi Kitty.
You wanted some time, right? Is it this will be a good time?
So I wanted some time for this Spotify users report. Have you shown that internal report from where Ranjit is pulling the users data?
No, I am not. I am not.
Then we can, if Ranjit is able to show that, then we can end the Spotify users report. Ranjit, are you ready with that internal link?
Yeah, you want me to share the screen?
Yes, please share the screen and demonstrate how you export the users data for Spotify.
I'm stopping share.
Oh, let me share the screen. So I have already bookmarked the dashboard link. I am opening from there.
So this is the typical situation that I was talking about. Users will use the link of the report. they'll add it as a bookmark and favorites of the browser and use it.
But Ranjit, for the first time, can I actually showcase it from the root folder, the path that you are traversing to get to this internal dashboard?
Sure. So I'm logging into the Spotify web URL. So we'll navigate to the analytics. And then from here, Spotify library, we can navigate to the dashboard from here. The path should be production sharp dashboard. So IT intern. And so this is the one we often used for our internal purpose, IT internal dashboard. Let me open it. So this is the landing page of the dashboard. We have several options. So now what we have seen is Spotify content usage. So content usage is something that management may come up with ask that we want usage data for the past 30 days or 60 days, 90 days, something like that. So we need to navigate here to get the data for the. So here there are multiple filters. We can filter the date based upon our requirement. So I'm filtering for the past 30 days.
So I'll give a background. So for the Power BI users report, so that particular users report is based on real-time data. Whereas for Spotfire users report, we take a monthly export from this particular dashboard. So let's say for the users data for the month of May, that is May 1st to May 31st, we will actually export it June 4th or the 4th of every succeeding month in that case.
So we have a document also recorded how to do this process. Each and every step we have noted it. Follow the same if you are doing for the post. Yeah.
So this document will be part
URL.
of SOP that we transfer to you whenever you have access.
Yeah. So we need to navigate to the usage data option here, and then to select the date range from which from date and the to date, and then the action filter should be the load content. Action, we are selecting the load content. So why we are selecting the load content? It will filter out the list of dashboards only. What are the dashboards that are accessed for the last 30 days, right? So that will filter out here. So now it has filtered out for the past 30 days in this visualize. So we can right click it and we can export it in the which format we want. Basically, I will export here as a Excel. So just download it. Open the Excel. So this way we can get the details of the usage data of a Spotfire for the past 30 days, whatever the ask is from the management, or Vinod may come up will ask last 30 days, something like that. So the usernames, last logged time, and the group which the dashboard belongs to, and the path of the dashboard. And these are the details, other details, the machine name and the session ID, the file size and the library IDs columns. This you are explaining how you importing this data into the Power BI reports.
Yeah, so no, I'll explain that. So you will be exporting this Excel into a Google Sheet, right? And you will be sharing it because the connector for the Power BI Spotfed users report is a Google Sheet, not an Excel. So show that step as well, and then I'll take over, Ranjit.
Yeah. So here I exported in an Excel format. So if you want it in a Google Sheet, we can create a sheet and we can copy the data into the Google Sheet. Yeah, you can take it up from here, Ashish.
Okay, sure. Thank you. So let me share my screen. You can stop your screen share, Ranjit. Thank you, Ranjit. Yep. So this is our Spotfire users report. That is there in the PBIX file format. So when we come here to the data source, we have two data sources. One is the employee data source, that is the same as the one that is being used for the Power BI users data, and one is the raw data. This is nothing but the one that is being shared that I usually get from Ranjit, that is being exported from the internal dashboard. So this particular raw data is being currently stored in a Google Sheet. This is the particular link. So once you receive your Google, cloud IDs, you will be shared with this particular raw data sheet as well. So we'll go to this one. I'll paste it here. So this is the particular raw data sheet that is acting as source for our Spotfire users report. As you can see, this is currently holding data from 8th of August 2024 till 30th of April 2025. In the month of June, when Ranjit exposed the monthly users data for me, I will append it after this particular row for the month of May. Then I'll actually save it and close this sheet. If it is open, the Power BI report does not refresh properly. They will throw out an error. So when I come here, once that is exported, I will come here. No need to go to transform page anymore. I'll come here and I'll just refresh and then I will publish. And while publishing, it is published at the same workspace where the Power BI users report is also published. That is BI platforms. I'll show you from the Power BI server as well. So when I go to workspace, I'll come to workspace here. So this is the BI platforms workspace. So you will be obviously having the admin accesses going forward. You can come to this workspace and you can download both the Power BI users report, that is this one, as well as the Spotfire users report, that is this one. So Spotfire users report is refreshed monthly once, possibly around between 5th and 10th of every succeeding month. Okay, so it follows the same format, the detailed tab at the front of it, and the consumer users pivots and the second page. So this reports, as you can see, it takes up a lot, means it appears a little bit small because it has been published at a very high resolution, so that the higher management who uses the widescreen, they are easily visible to them at their resolution. So this is using the same format as the Power BI users report. The difference is just that the Spotfire report, we get the source um, source data once a month, and this particular PBIX file for Spotfire users is refreshed manually and published it every time into this BI hyphen platforms workspace. That's the difference. The Power BI report, we don't need to publish it. Power BI users report, you don't need to publish it. It is at a real time. And if you don't see the real-time data reflected, just you can go to the Power BI server and refresh that particular data source, and it will automatically show the refreshed data. Okay. This particular Spotfire raw data sheet will be shared to you once you receive your cloud IDs. This is the source for the resultant sheet that we come up here. Sorry. Raw data. Employee is nothing but the same query that is also used for the Power BI users report, and resultant is in the same format that is being also used for the Power BI users report as well. Over to you, Giri.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, Giri.
Yeah. Thank you. We have 15 minutes more. Either we can do a discussion on the topics that we have just covered, or I can continue. If you have any questions right now, please. Okay. So I guess I can continue. Let me share my screen. Can you see my TDV Studio screen?
Yes.
Okay, so we did have a look at how databases are first brought into TDB under the shared folder, configuring of the data connector, use of the data connector. I won't say configuring, the use of the data connector, and how I publish that into the composite data services under a catalog. By the way, sorry, I did not mention that. So this, what you see, is a catalog or a schema that you define first when you create it. But we don't have to go through that because you will hardly have anything to do with it. It may not come because for the last 7-8 months, there have been no changes on TDV. There are many other processes also that come into TDB, but I have not taken that into account because we have been clearly given instructions that whatever is required to cover this because this particularly TDV, our management wants to phase out as fast as possible. Even before Spotfire, they want TDV to be phased out. Now, I showed you initially if I have an object, how I publish it into the composite data services. I come here, I do a publish. Okay. Now you have to be aware of one more process. So, for example, we will not have a fresh table that is going to be published into shared services. I mean, for example, what I'm trying to say is in the managing BB database, I can create another table, employee directory 02. It may not come to you to have that published in entirely into bring it into Spotfire. It may not come, but something can come. What can come is they can make a change on the employee directory. Say, for example, they have the field as car and they create it as war car. Now, what happens? What you have to do? You come here, go to managing BB. I hope I'm correct. Okay, you open this. We have this open somewhere, I guess. Not, I open it again. Sorry, it is not here. It is here. Now, example, I take the last, so last name worker 32, I change it to worker 240, something like that. What you do is, there is a process called reintrospect. When you do a reintrospect, it goes and checks whether there is a structural change somewhere. Oh, you do a reintrospect on the data source, you don't do it on the table. Sorry, I have missed that out. Ranjit, do you remember where that option is? Yeah, here, sorry. Yeah, thank you, Ranjit. So the option is on this, wherever you have created, you can do a reintrospect. Okay, when you do a reintrospect, it will bring up all these. So if it will show the changes, if expected, updated 4, total 4, skipped 4, there are no changes. That is why it did not do anything. So it will do a reintrospect. Reintrospect will automatically update your published table. But if you have a new table, again, you will have to publish it. And out of 200, say for example, in a database, you have 200 tables. You just need to use 20 tables for your TDV. You just can publish 20 tables only. You don't have to even bring those 20 tables, rest of the tables over here. Now, another fundamental question that we have to answer is when you come to Spotfire, managing BP, this is a user called dev This is also a user called dev how do I assign rights to this user? Where do I create this user? So this user is created in TDB. TDB also has an interface to manage, web interface to manage. For this, you will have to use the port 29402. Even though it is saying unsafe, it is safe. Okay, this is the URL, sorry. And the monitoring. Under this, you have user management. So under this composite group, I have dev user, which has all the administrative rights here. Basically, you can ignore all the other users for now. Concentrate only on dev and this has an administrative right throughout TDB, and we are using this to authenticate the access on the database or access of data share from TDB into Spotfire. So to, in case it comes, I have not seen a reset password for last 4 or 5 years. If you need to reset password, you have to reset from this interface. You'll have to come here, use this URL. URL will be shared on a document. And you will have to reset the password here. Showing you that this exists. And previously TDB was used more. And there is a clustering also here. Essentially, there are 2 TDB servers. And if you see TDV, it is MU. WW is in the West, as in US West data center. P stands for production. TDV stands for the software name. BI. This is a BI VM, and these are the two servers production. So all servers are, I can tell you the IPs directly for this. So this is the IP 10.178.20.5. The other IP is 10.178.20.4. So on the studio, there is another manager which you can use for management of your traffic, etc. You can even see the memory for TDV server here, how it is being used. So you can understand from this allotment that has been made, it has the provision to use about 17, but it is still using very less because the number of reports have come down and the cluster is of, as of now, we have not decommissioned one node because it is still, it was a high usage environment. The usage is coming down. And you can see it is not using much. It is not there were something called caches from other databases also created on TDV, that is also gone now. It shows you if you want to test all the data sources which are enabled. Let us just so all these are disabled. These are up. So if I basically do a test all now, it will start testing all this. There is also another window that shows you requests and the sessions, as in who is connected and things like that. So this is the administration part of the TDV on the TDV Studio. So currently it is 9 o'clock. I will close this session now. If you have any questions for me now, please do ask. So what I have covered: Spotfare, usage, user access. And when Ranjit showed you Spotfare usage, he also showed you how to access a report. That report that Ranjit showed is one of the asks which you have to create monthly. And we showed you the different nodes on the Spotfire server, the purposes of those nodes. We showed you how how access is given on folders, how we use Okta groups, and modify access is given to individual users. If groups need to be created, it has to be created on Spotfire side. So basically, we went through library administrator. We went through information designer, and under the information designer, we did the data sources tab. We showed you there are different kinds of data sources. on Spotfire, but we normally use centralized data sources. There is another form of connection that Spotfire uses, which is something that we have to do further. That is something for you to understand. We'll come to that in the next session. Global troubleshooting bundle. We showed you that also. I just outlined the option and where you download it, things like that. If you are not able to download it, then you'll have to refer to SRE and get that downloaded and attached on the ticket. So basically, when you raise a ticket for support, they normally, if you specify that it is administered by SRE, and you also include their names, SRE guys name who can help them. They basically, we include one person from IST and one person from US shift. We add them both onto the ticket, and the analyst who is working on the support ticket can reach out to them also. You can specify that just to make sure that it is not waiting for you for something like a bundle download, things like that. So in some of the data sources, we saw TDV is the one that is configured. We went through TDV. We showed you shared folder. Then we showed you composite data sources. Under composite data sources, we showed you databases. And there was one more, web services. We did not go through web services, but we'll go through that also. Okay, that's it from me for now. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Giri. Thanks all.
Yep. So Vinod and Kiri, they are in a different meeting. I have already pinged Vinod, and Vinod has asked me to let you know that he will share the recordings and he will reach out to you, Virendra, as well. Okay.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Thank you all for the session. Thank you,
Thank you.
Kiri, Sanjay, everyone. Bye.
That's all.